Talbot Grimes, also known as the Blight. Talbot Grimes was a Scottish chemist who had nothing but ambition that took him to dangerous heights. The same level of ambition like the mythical tale of Icarus or the real history of Napoleon. As a child, he was quite popular among his social peers, bright, charismatic, and unafraid to challenge authority. He spent much of his time exploring the flower fields in his town until he came across a poisonous foxglove. He experimented with patches of the flower, which caused him to be very ill. Dripping in sweat and unable to eat any food without purging it from his stomach, he laid in bed for days, but instead of feeling fear, he was fascinated that a single flower could drastically change how he felt. As he became an adult, his ambitions started to soar along with his questionable methods. He pushed his limits while he attended London School of Medicine, which got him to be head chemist with the British East India Company in just 7 years. In time, he completed a chemical that can increase a worker's productivity while reducing their need for rest. With that, he got a secret lab underneath Dyer Island's prison camp. There, he worked on a drug that allowed soldiers to withstand any amount of pain. This caused a side effect where soldiers would go mad and feral, massacring villagers all throughout India. Talbot would deny any involvement in what the soldiers did after being exposed to the drug he made. It was only after he was abducted that he saw what his life's work had done to the populace from those soldiers he drugged up. A sickly man removed Talbot's blindfold and showed him a mass grave filled with dead bodies, an entire factory's worth of workers. Talbot knew he couldn't defend himself, which led the man to keep beating him with a steel pipe until he couldn't move. He was thrown off the wagon and left for dead. But Talbot later wakes up after regaining his consciousness to a kindly wrinkled face looking after him. It seems this person found him and took him to an ancient mystery school posing as a monastery, a place filled with monks that studied forbidden text, believing there are dimensions that connected to the others, including this one that they all live in. Talbot realized that this was no coincidence. Fate brought him to this school, and he agreed to help them out while he was recovering. He was tasked to research something called the soul chemical, a compound used to help open the third eye. This favor turned into his obsession, looking through the school's archives and uncovered scientific formulas that weren't even thought of. He dreamt of using this to usher humanity into a new renaissance, a new period of enlightenment. Perhaps this will help him forget that grim mass grave he saw earlier. As he came closer to a breakthrough from his experiments, the monks that once gave a warm, friendly greeting turned into them quickly wanting to avoid and ignore the obsessed mad scientist. One day, he awoke to find his notes gone. As he frantically searched for them, even pleading for help from the monks that just ignored him, a robed figure approached him from behind and injected a needle into him, causing him to black out again. Awoken again, he found himself in an unknown stone room, assuming to be his prison. He struggles to remember everything he wrote into his notes, until he gets a faint memory, one with a whisper that he can hear. He grabs a piece of a stone and carves the research formulas he had remembered into the walls. He wrote for hours, fingers bleeding, even carving the research onto the floor, listening to everything the voices said. When there was nothing else to write, he carved the rest of the message onto his chest with that same stone. Stained with blood, he witnessed something incredible. A field of lush, orange flowers appeared before him. This gave Talbot the same fascination he felt as a child. The voice of the entity beckoned him to enter the field, giving the world and dimensions for him to explore beyond human comprehension. The fog that filled the room he was in surrounded him as he saw messages written over and over without end. It contained only one line: "Death is only the beginning." He steps into the fog to continue the experiments that appeased only one thing: the entity itself. Remember his compound that he made that enhances performance? He uses that to his advantage. His ability is known as Blight corruption, allowing him to use his chemical compound from the orange flowers he discovered to sprint to the survivors he finds. He can even bounce off walls without feeling any pain. Whenever he bounces off the wall, he can do a lethal rush, which allows him to attack survivors he charges at. So another sprint attack like Hillbilly and Oni. He can also destroy downed pallets and breakable walls while performing a lethal rush. If he runs into obstacles or walls, he can chain his slam once more before slowing down to inject the serum into him again. I think you can imagine what side effect he's been getting with that. So compared to other killers that charge at survivors, Talbot's sprint charge technically lasts the longest thanks to his chain sprint attack. Talbot's perks allows him to cause a survivor to scream when interacting with the generator you damaged and make them suffer the exposed status effect for 60 seconds, Have the entity block all pallets within 32 meters of that survivor for the next 15 seconds after taking damage, including when they're put in the dying state, and see auras of all survivors that are within 2 to 4 meters of any dull totems. Both these hexes lose their ability when the totems are either cleansed or blessed. Overall, I will put the Blight in B tier. While he is fun to use to chase down survivors, he suffers the same problem with Ghostface. In maps that have open fields, his ability can be great, but in tight interior maps, it would get frustrating to use his ability. At least his first and third perks come in handy in chasing down the survivors he spots. To understand the human condition, one must rise above it. A statement that Talbot Grimes fully understood, leading to the life he was meant for.